All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us for the Case Western Reserve University Master of Science in Anesthesia program. My name is Logan Jacqueline. I am the manager of enrollment and I will be your host tonight. First, we're going to go over the agenda, what we'll touch on today. We'll go over the profession. We'll give you an overview of each of our program locations. So we have Cleveland, Ohio, Washington, D.C., Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas. We have 2 students with us that will talk about their student experience, and then we'll go into the application process and wrap up with a Q&A. So if you have questions while we are presenting, please feel free to use the Q&A feature and chat your questions in there. We'll try to answer them as we go, but we'll also try to answer them at the end for our Q&A session. And then here are our panelists tonight. Unfortunately, Ken can't be with us, but we have Joe Schaefer, who is the Director of Didactic Education from Houston, Texas. We have Ty, who is the Program Director in Austin, Texas. We have Pete, who is the Director of Special Projects in Cleveland, Ohio, and Roberta Senatore, who is the Education Specialist in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Pete, who will give us a overview of the profession and our program.
Hi, glad to have the opportunity to talk with all of you. So what, one of the questions is as well, what's a certified anesthesiologist assistant? And because the word assistant is in there and people think, well, you sort of just hand things to the doctor, and that's clearly not the case here, although you occasionally do that, but it's a very there's a very much team-oriented approach to patient care. So we are known in the allied health. So allied health being not nursing, not pharmacy, not physician. So it'd be like PAs and respiratory therapists, et cetera. So we're advanced practice provider and we specialize in, delivering anesthesia care. So how do we do this? Well, you're going to be doing a lot of hands-on technical work along with having to really analyze what's going on during a general anesthetic or any type of anesthetic where we provide care. And this usually starts with you and the physician who is a specialist in the field of anesthesiology, which means they went to med school, then they did 4 or 5 years of residency, and then they passed boards and all that. So you're going to be working with the physician in implementing an anesthesia care plan. And what that means is every patient's different. You're going to look at their background, every aspect of them, and you're going to come up with a way of, administering an anesthetic to this patient. And that could be a general anesthetic where they're asleep, or it could be what's called neuroaxial, where you insert medication into the spine or around the spine, or it could be sedation or something else. But you and the anesthesiologist will decide. Think of it sort of as they're the pilot and we're the co-pilot, if you will. So once the plan is implemented, you will, you guys decide on what you're going to do. You really are going to be doing 90% of the tasks involved. You'll meet with the patient ahead of time. You'll help sedate the patient ahead of time. You'll take the patient into the room, get all the monitors set up. And prior to all this, you will have set up the room with all the equipment necessary. So you're going to learn how to use a lot of equipment. So, if it's a general anesthetic, you're going to start the IV, depends on where you work. Sometimes the nurses do, depending on how it is. And you may be applying all kinds of monitors. And some of these are invasive. So this means that you're going to be putting in catheters or these little tubes into big vessels and monitor physiologic data, or you're going to be putting a needle in somebody's back and administering an anesthetic directly into the spine, or putting a little tube in a space around the spine where you're going to administer a medication to help relieve pain. So the point is, I'm trying to get across is it's really hands-on, and then you're going to be in control of the airway. You're going to be putting in breathing tubes into the lungs and hook up the patient to the anesthesia machine through which an anesthetic, which is vaporized, goes into the patient, and then you're going to monitor all the vital signs. I'm trying to give you sort of a slimmed down version of what's involved, but it's pretty complex. And then once the patient's safely asleep, the anesthesiologist usually leaves, and they have other duties because they either see the next patient or they're covering 2 or 3 other rooms, and they're busy, and you basically are running the show. And it's up to you to administer medications, because as the case goes on, drugs wear off, you got to get more, you have to adjust depending on whether the pressure goes up and down, et cetera. And then once the case is over, you and the anesthesia, you call the anesthesiologist back in, you wake the patient up, and then you take the patient to recovery room. Now, one of the key aspects of the job is, while the case is going on, you're going to be analyzing the data. And if you think something is not right, or something is, that you need to consult with the anesthesiologist, that's where that interaction happens. And the patient comes out the better for it, because the patient has 2 people watching over them, which is great. And then other times you'll be working, again, so that you go through the preoperative or before surgery, through surgery, and postoperative when you take them to recovery room and you hand over the care to the nurse there. All this training and all of the clinical work you're going to do is going to go, you're going to wind up you're going to be certified by the National Commission for Certification of Anesthesiologist Assistants, and PSI is an accrediting agency that validates the national board exam. They have psychometricians who analyze the answers and set the curve and all that, and help determine who passes and who is not going to pass. Next slide. So where do we practice? Well, this has been increasing over the years. Matter of fact, in the last 2 years, I think Kansas 2 years ago allowed AAs to practice, and then recently Utah passed a licensing law, and then just very recently Pennsylvania has allowed AAs to work. Now, there's 2 forms of permissions by the state, and the ones in the light blue are what's called delegatory. And what that means is that you are working under the anesthesiologist license rather than your own, and all the other dark blue states, you work under your own license. So, and that's the way most allied health professions started, was under delegatory authority, where, physicians were allowed to delegate tasks to non-physicians. So next slide. All right, so our graduates in really high demand, and there is really a nationwide shortage of anesthesia providers. I've had people ask me this, and I cannot remember, all kidding aside, any of our graduates in the last 25 years who did not get a job. We had one person a few years ago who decided to take a year off to do whatever they want to do, but then they immediately got a job once they had their year away from everything. So it's the demand is very high, and it is really in the last, particularly in the last 2 years since the COVID epidemic, has really exacerbated the shortage. And that seems to be, we're going to need manpower definitely over the next 20 years, 25 years, I think. So much so that the starting salaries, we just threw in 160,000 because that seems to be a reasonable number. Depending on where you work, sometimes could be more, but that depends on cost of living and the market in the area. So, and along with this salary comes, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this too. But on the plus side, you do have a wonderful work-life balance. There are so many models of how you work during the week, everything from a regular 40-hour week, Monday through Friday, to alternate days. Some people work 2 days for 12 hours and then 2 days for 8 hours with 1 day off. I mean, there really is a lot of different models, and that depends on where you work, will be determined. Sometimes taking call, and if you don't know what call is, call means that there's basically two forms. Call means that you're immediately available, say for 24 hours. So sometimes that takes place in the hospital. So you're going to stay overnight in the hospital and you have a call room. Other places they have call where you're on a pager or a cell phone, whatever, and you're at home and you get paid for being on call, even though you don't necessarily, even if they don't call you in. If you call you in, then it's a different pay thing, but it depends. Some places don't have calls, some do, and it really depends on the hospital system you wind up working with. Okay, next. All right, some folks have a concern for taking on debt for schooling and all that. And this is just some data that we've gotten from our graduates. And if you look at this, the amount to pay off graduate school debt, it's pretty rapid. I mean, if you're making 160,000 a year, just as a number, that's pretty much in the 96th percentile. I don't know the exact number, but it's up there, of all professions, of all occupations in the country. So you're going to be making, and depends on how, you know, if some people want to pay off their debt right away. So maybe the first 2 years, they really concentrate on paying off their loans. Others take a little bit longer. But as you can see, the vast majority seem to be able to pay it off in 15 years, which is pretty great. Next slide. Okay. So we have 4 sites. It is a straight through 24-month program. There's minimal breaks. First year you get a little bit of a break, but second year you go straight through. And we really emphasize in the case program, and this is the same at all 4 of our sites. We're one program, but just have different locations. We really concentrate on, obviously, the didactic. We've really recently greatly improved our simulation, which has been our goal for a long time, but we now have a wonderful simulation setup. And we really have always believed since the program has been in existence to be really aggressive in getting the students into clinical training as soon as we can. So if you get accepted to the program, and typically the first year starts the last week of May, first week of June, you know, depending on how the calendar falls. The first Monday that you're there, well, the first Monday after the day you get there, you'll be shadowing in the OR. So every Monday, we call this like a boot camp month. And then in July, you'll be doing more 2 or 3 days in the OR. And we really feel that that parallel of didactic instruction with the hands-on clinical training, although can be challenging, the students seem to, it really pays off for the students, and we have heard that, and that you can help develop your skills much quicker, we feel. So the program is accredited nationally by the Commission on Accreditation and Allied Health Education. We just had our inspection by this commission, and we got a 10-year extension, which means that the program is solid and all the requirements, educational requirements, have been met. Okay, next. All right. One of the key feature, I think, key aspects of our program is we were one of the first 2 programs to train CAAs, Emory being the other program, and we have a reputation amongst the anesthesiologists, our graduates do, that they're in demand. I've had over the years attend national meetings, and I've had occasional anesthesiologists come up and say, hey, have any good grads that I can hire, or can you send them our way? That kind of thing. So, and we also do surveys. So our students go out and get jobs, and then about a year after they're out there, we'll send a survey out to their employees and ask how they're doing. Are you satisfied? And that helps us to do everything we can to plan, to change anything we need in the curriculum if we have to. Our faculty is, if you get into our program, you have access to every member in the faculty, going from the director all the way down to clinical instructors. You don't have to go through channels or anything. If you feel you need to talk to somebody, we are there for you. And we also stress professional advocacy. A lot of our grads are involved in opening legislation, or legislation to promote our profession in other states or in existing states, to make sure that state laws or nobody is, protect our profession and get involved politically. You will have a mentor, a student and a faculty mentor. So if you're a first year, you'll have two people you can go to. We encourage students to talk to each other and help each other out. In that 2-year period, you will have performed at least 2,100 clinical hours, which is a lot of hours. And most of our students, or the vast majority of our students, hit this and exceed it. You're going to be trained in all the major specialties, regional anesthesia, which means I was talking about like spinals, epidurals, and you'll learn how to do blocks. So you'll learn how to block an arm. If the surgery requires something to be repaired in an elbow, you'll know how to do the block, put it and numbs it up so the surgeon can perform the surgery. We have rotations. Your first year, you will stay within the immediate vicinity of where you are. So if you're in Houston, you'll stay within hospitals within Houston, and Cleveland, you'll stay in hospitals in Cleveland. However, your second year, you can do elective rotations, so out of state. For instance, if let's say you become interested in peds, so you can do one peds rotation in Cleveland, but you're curious to see how they do pediatrics at Dallas Children's, for instance, in Texas. Well, we have agreements with 80 affiliate hospitals around the country, so you can do an additional rotation out there. It could be an OB or whatever you're interested in. We try to help you get that extra month or two rotation. All right, next slide. All right, so what are these specialty clinical rotations? Well, the major ones are ambulatory outpatient, which is a big segment of what we do. Cardiac, meaning open heart, cath lab, cardiac cath lab procedures. You'll be doing peripheral nerve blocks. So these are blocks outside of the spine. It could be in a leg, leg, arm, hand, whatever's necessary. So neurosurgical, obstetric, you'll be doing a month in obstetrics, helping delivering babies and all that. Intensive care unit, so you can be exposed to what happens to patients post-surgery, the really sick ones, and how they're taken care of. Pediatric trauma and trauma. So we have very good trauma rotations where you'll be amazed what the human body can take in terms of damage, and you're able to pull a lot of these patients through. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'm going to finish up by talking about Cleveland. If you decide to attend the Cleveland area program, it's a great place to be. There is probably the second or third largest continuous medical campuses, which if you come to Cleveland between East 80th Street and East 116th, it's virtually nothing but medical centers. I think Houston's is larger, but it's concentrated, and the program sits within what's called University Circle, which is a cultural centered museum, fabulous museum, Cleveland Orchestra, which is really amazing. You should hear once if you have a chance. The other major hospital in the system is Metro Health. That is the county hospital, and that's across the river, the Cuyahoga River on the west side. Great experiences there. You're going to be exposed to every socioeconomic strata of patient doing your rotations through the Cleveland area. It's good entertainment for a student, for a young person. If you want to chill, go out, restaurants are really good, fabulous, and really enjoy it. Good variety, very diverse ethnic situation here in town, and good rapid transit to get downtown to sports events. You can take the rapid from campus, pay, I think it's $2 now, and get downtown and attend anything you want, and a lot of concert venues. Like I said, I lived here my whole life, really enjoyed it. Never really got bored with anything. I think you won't either if you decide to attend the Cleveland program. All right, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Pete. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Joe to tell us a little bit about the Houston location.
Thank you. Well, one of the first things is Houston is a very, very large city. We're the third or fourth largest city in the country, depending on what data you look at. The nice thing about Houston is we also have the world's largest medical center to source. So we have several different locations that you can rotate inside that medical center, specifically Texas Heart Institute. Because of that, and because Houston's such a large city, there are many, many different hospitals and several different hospital systems. So we're always able to add new rotation sites to Houston. Pete mentioned earlier it being a good job market for the profession. I'm gonna just further mention that in Houston, Texas right now, we could not possibly fill all the positions that we have for AAs open right now. So it's also a very, very good place to rotate, in the sense that as you go to these different rotations, if Houston is a place you'd be interested in staying at, each of these rotations are like job interviews for places that are very desperate to hire anesthesia personnel. I think because of the location and being associated with the medical center, we are afforded the opportunity of being able to experience a wide variety of caseloads while you're here in Houston. We have rotations that are as straightforward as bread and butter anesthesia cases and outpatient ambulatory surgery centers, and we have some of our second year rotations and world-renowned heart institutes where you could see things ranging from heart transplants to lung transplants and things like that. One cool thing about Houston is, and most people don't know this, but it's actually the most culturally diverse city in the country. So if you come here, no matter what your background is, you'll probably be able to find people with similar backgrounds, or if you're like myself, you like learning things about different cultures, this is a fantastic city to come to. There are any number of different cuisines and museums that when you do have free time from the program, that you can visit and spend your time. So I think Houston's a fantastic opportunity for anyone who'd be interested in coming here and is not afraid of a little warm weather. We have a fantastic campus that's about 3 miles from the Texas Medical Center, and it's near our museum district. So it's just a shuttle ride away from the hospitals, and a shuttle ride away from several really fantastic museums and parks. Houston itself is a very big city, so there are different areas depending on how close you want to live to school. So some of the areas are very affordable, especially once you start getting out into the suburbs. And so if you don't mind a little bit of a commute, sometimes Houston can be a good place because you can find a nice area, especially if you have a family that you're going to be bringing with you for the school program. Um, so if you guys have any questions later on about Houston, be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Joe. Moving on to Washington, D.C., we'll hear from Tim, who is a second-year student.
Hey guys, nice to talk to everyone. So yeah, the program recently moved to a new location and it's called DuPont Circle, which is located in a beautiful part of DC. So the new program has floor-to-ceiling windows, which has a great view of DC, which makes learning in the summer a little bit more bearable, being able to see outside. And also the location is located very close to a couple of our different clinical sites, including the George Washington University Hospital, which is probably the one that's closest, and then also the MedStar Washington Hospital Center. MedStar Washington Hospital Center is a great place for training because you see a lot of really sick patients, and then you also get a lot of different case experiences, which has been wonderful for students. And then also we train at Georgetown Hospital in DC and also Children's National. And Children's National is actually located right next to MedStar Washington Hospital Center. And in terms of free time, there's a lot to do in the area. There's a lot of great restaurants, bars, a ton of wonderful museums, boutiques, and basically anything. There's also a lot of like sports games that you could do and just a lot that you could get into on the weekends with your friends when you do have free time. So if you come to DC, you'll always have something to do.
Thanks so much, Tim. Moving on to hear about Austin, Texas, from Program Director Ty Townsend.
Thanks, Logan, and thank you everyone for being on the webinar tonight. How very informative from everyone so far. So thank you guys for being here. Austin, Texas, the newest Case Western Reserve University AA program, following in the footsteps of Cleveland, Ohio, which has been in existence since the late 60s, followed by Houston and DC, and now Austin. So we just welcomed our first class of students. We have a class size of 12, and we're growing from there. What Austin, I think, it's kind of hard to rival those other locations. I like what Tim said about DC. Austin is Austin, and I like it that their motto here is "Keep it weird." It's been a great opportunity down here to bring the AA profession. Austin, as most everyone knows, is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, and it's that way for a reason. Everything here is just popping at the seams with welcoming people from all areas, walks of life. The tech industry, is here with the influx of people. There's a huge boom in healthcare in this region as well. One of our clinical rotation sites announced just this spring the building of 2 new hospitals that they're needing to do because of the expansion that's going on down here. So it's been a great opportunity. Our students will have the opportunity to do their first year clinical experience and classroom experience here in Austin. And then unique to Austin compared to the other programs, we are probably the smallest city out of the other 3. And with the growth of Austin isn't really known as being a medical teaching environment. So our students are going to be exposed to more of the private practice kind of environment. The pace is a little bit different. The education that comes with that, slightly different, still very much getting the same hands-on as everyone else, just a little bit of a different environment. However, we still get a lot of the same second-year rotations are going to be able to be housed here in Austin as well. With cardiac, we have a new pediatric hospital that's already had broken ground here in town. and then a lot of neuro and trauma that goes on, just like any other large city as well. Austin is known for its diversity. It's known for its music. It's known for the Texas Hill Country, Lake Travis. It's a great place to have your family. It's a great place to learn. The anesthesia community here in Austin has been working on getting the program here, welcoming students, and has kind of been busting at the seams to get involved in education and training. So our students are very much welcome into the medical community here. I know that we had a physician, to echo the sentiments of everyone else, when we had one of the local physicians came in to say hi, to meet the students. And it seemed almost like a sales pitch. He already mentioned, look, you guys are graduating in 2 years. You've been here for 3 weeks, and I'm ready to start bringing applications. Like we are ready to hire here in Austin. So great environment for sure. I would love to, if you're interested, to continue to reach out to us and let us answer the questions you might have. I did kind of peruse, Logan, some of the question and answers that were going on the side. I can see that Bobby has been very, very busy. And hopefully at the end, we'll have a time to kind of break them down a little bit more. But I do know that one person posed the question of being a reservist. And I was just going to comment on that and say that when I was a graduate student at Case Western, I also was Army reservist. And as far as the reserve commitment, it's not an issue at all. The programs are always easy, are very helpful in working around your military commitment and understand those commitments as well. And that is all I have.
Thanks so much, Ty. All right, now we'll hear from 2 students. So we're going to start with Tim. Like I said, he is a second-year student from Washington, D.C. Tim, can you tell us a little bit about your background, what made you choose Case Western, and what made you choose this profession?
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, my name is Tim, and I'm a second-year student at Case DC. So the past year being in the anesthesia program has been very challenging, but also very rewarding. And it's really amazing to see how much that we've learned in just a year, or a little bit over a year now. And I feel like a lot of it is due to the support that we've gotten from our faculty and the staff. And I just feel like we've really been given the resources that we need to be able to succeed in the program and in clinicals, which has been amazing. And so my background is that I went to undergrad at UVA, where I did kinesiology, and I also did pre-med. And like a lot of students, I feel like I was in between a couple different health professions. But my main things that I was in between was the MSA program and medical school. So after I graduated college, I took some time to study for the MCAT. And this was during the COVID-19 pandemic era. So I was basically stuck at home studying for the MCAT. And after I did that experience and took the MCAT, I was pretty much solidified in my decision to do the MSA program, because I realized that I really wanted a career that had flexibility and balance. And just from talking to previous or current AAs, and also talking to current AA students, I realized that this career would be able to provide me more of a work-life balance, which is something that I realized I really wanted. And then also for a year after graduating college, I worked at a pharmaceutical company, in which I was able to really see the type of work-life balance I wanted, which I think was also a very valuable experience. So some big courses that we take in the MSA program are pharmacology and physiology. And I've really just resonated with these 2 different subjects. And I think the main reason behind this is because we actually get to see it happen in front of us in clinicals. So in undergrad, I feel like a lot of the things that we learn, especially in chemistry and biology, are kind of theoretical, and we never really get to see it in practice. But that's the complete opposite in anesthesia school, because the things that you learn are completely applicable. Like literally the next day, if you go into the OR, you can see it, which I think is amazing. And then I also really like the aspect of the anesthesia care team model. Being able to be a part of an organized anesthesia care team with a physician anesthesiologist, I think is a really underrated aspect of this career. I think it's just great being able to have ideas, share your ideas with a anesthesiologist and other anesthesia professionals. I think that's honestly really amazing because we learn so much from them. And then they also really value our opinions as well. Even as a student, they listen to my ideas, which has been amazing and really provides insight to what it'll be like to have a full-time career in anesthesia as an anesthesiologist assistant. And then I also enjoy the patient interaction aspect of the job. I feel like it has like the perfect balance because in the morning, like was mentioned before, we'll go in and talk to the patient. And this is a time where we have like a limited time to establish trust with the patient and yourself, because this is obviously like a very scary time for these patients, not really knowing what's going to happen. So being able to interact with patients and being able to calm their anxiety and answer any questions they may have, I think has been very rewarding as well. And also stretches your skills outside of just clinicals and clinical knowledge and didactic information. It's kind of like the soft skills that you have to have in order to connect with patients. And yeah, so right now I'm in my OB rotation and in my second year. And it's just one of the things that I didn't realize that I would be interested in, but I've actually found it very rewarding. Just something about being able to help mothers through the process of delivering their babies has just been very rewarding to me. And this is not something that I would have known I was even passionate about if I had never started this program, which I just thought was an interesting tad bit. So in regards to the schedule, I think a lot of people typically have questions about that. So first year is mainly a mix of didactics, lab, and clinicals. So like was mentioned before, you do a month of boot camp, which is pretty intensive, like didactic and lab training. And then after that, you start going to clinicals about 2 to 3 times a week. And then in regards to didactics, I would say that we do that about 3 to 4 days a week, and lab ends up being around 1 day a week. So the schedule is pretty busy, and you're busy most of the time. So it's really important to optimize your time management and make sure that you get your work done efficiently, because when you're able to do that, then you're also able to have free time to like hang out with your friends and be able to explore the city that you're in, which is also part of the program, also amazing. So yeah, I feel like if you're in a similar position like I was after graduating college and you're not really sure, I would just like to offer you a word of encouragement and let you know that a lot of my classmates and a lot of people in the AA profession were also in the same position. But a lot of us, since starting the program, we found it extremely rewarding and we haven't regretted our decision. I just know that I made the right choice, at least for me. Yeah, so that's all I had.
Thanks so much, Tim. Great to hear from your perspective. Now we're going to switch over to Elizabeth, who is a second year in Cleveland, Ohio. Elizabeth, same questions. What's your background? What made you go into this profession and why you chose CASE?
Okay, hi everyone. It's so good to see so many of you here. Thank you, Logan. My name is Elizabeth Walcott. I'm a current second year at Cleveland, Ohio, the CASE campus, Cleveland, Ohio. I'm originally from Cleveland. I went to Ohio State and graduated in 2021 with a major in biology and a minor in business. And I came straight from undergrad into the MSA program. I really think Tim hit the nail on the head with a lot of these. I will be echoing a lot of what he said. First off, the reason why I chose AA versus another specialty was the same reason. I was in between medical school and a lot of other different medical professions and didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in. I had the general biology degree, which could have taken me kind of anywhere, and didn't really find a calling for anything until the summer of my sophomore year, when I decided to just shadow everything and use all my networking skills to get me in ORs and hospitals everywhere, and luckily came across the AA profession. The major things that stuck out to me were the work-life balance. There's not many other professions where you can go and work your 40-hour week and go home and leave work at work and not have to work weekends if you don't want to, unless you're required to take call or something like that. But just being able to go in and make the difference for the patient and be able to go home and leave that there was something that I really enjoyed. Like Tim said, we work in an anesthesia care team model, and I really enjoyed the fact that you could work one-on-one with an attending. If you've had the chance to shadow a current AA, you've definitely seen this in action, and it's really great to just have two sets of hands, two sets of eyes on things, and just a sounding board to bounce your ideas off of, and two minds working on one patient is better than one, in my opinion. And lastly, just like the impact on the patient experience that we had, like Tim said, you're the last person they see before they go to sleep. It's really important to build that trust, and I really enjoyed having that responsibility. I really liked the fact that you would stay with a case from start to end and be able to do all those skills and really just provide that coverage for your patient and have all that knowledge about them and have your only focus be them for the whole case. So after I decided I wanted to do AA, I looked around at all the different schools and applied to CASE for a multitude of different reasons. One being the fact that we start clinicals very early. It is something that doesn't really apply to the other programs. Like we said, we have a month called boot camp where you are just learning didactic material, and then you kind of get thrown into the OR. And it was scary at first, but I'm so glad at the end of the day that this is what CASE has set up for us. And just being able to get your hands on patients and get your hands on those skills early really makes a difference. Also talking to current AAs and current students, the reputation and the reach that CASE has is unparalleled with other institutions. Everyone speaks so highly of CASE students and CASE graduates, and CASE has partnerships with about 80 different hospitals across the United States. So when you get into your second year and you can start going and looking for jobs and rotating out of state, there are so many different hospitals that will work with you and that you could go and rotate at, which is a lot more than other programs have. And then also just being from Cleveland, I love Cleveland. Cleveland's so fun. There's a lot of great things to do, and there's a lot of great hospital systems. It was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So going over the student schedule, they're very similar from campus to campus. So what Tim said basically is what we do in Cleveland as well. Your first year is 2 to 3 days in the OR, 1 to 2 days of classes and simulation lab. It equals out to be about like 17 to 18 credit hours a semester and around 20 hours in the OR. It is a lot. It's a lot to get used to, but a lot of things flow together, and like Tim said, what you're going to be learning one day, you'll see in the OR the next. So it really just translates very well, and it was there for a reason and really helped further our learning in the OR. And then your second year schedule is basically clinicals 5 days a week from 6 a.m. to at least 3 p.m. You may be later depending on what cases you have. I'm currently on my trauma rotation at Metro Health in Cleveland. So the days are always a little sporadic. You never know what you're gonna get. So sometimes I am there later finishing a really cool case. But you do all your specialties and you do your generals, and it's basically like working the job. It's great experience. It's great training. It's, just you really get a taste for the job and the profession and really get to use all those skills that we learned earlier. Life outside of the program, it's a very rigorous 24-month program. As you can see, like in your first year, it's very heavy didactic, heavy clinicals, a lot of time spent between the two. But your weekends are yours. You can do whatever you want with them. Usually studying and doing work and getting ahead is more beneficial, but there are definitely times where it's a little less stressful and there's less things going on and you can do what you want. I know in second year, it is prohibited to have a contract job during the program, just because of the sheer amount of hours we're spending in the OR, and with some of your rotations having to take call on a weekend or having rotations outside of the city, it doesn't really line up with having a job. But other than that, you can really use your time as much as you want, other than studying for class and studying for boards. It's basically like undergrad with a little bit more stress, or not stress, but just more things to do during the week. And I really, like Tim said, I really enjoy this program. I would not want to go anywhere else or do anything. The class sizes are about 27 to 30 students, and we're all a great close-knit group. The program is not competitive at all. We are all so collaborative, working together. We're all just working towards an end goal, and it works better when everyone's on the same page and is helping out each other. So I'm happy to say my class is very close. I'm sure Tim can talk about the same thing, and we're all very happy to be where we are and just very appreciative for each other and the program. And the faculty is amazing. There are so many things that the faculty does behind closed doors that we don't know about to make our lives easier and to make your lives easier as prospective students. Bobby is a great resource for prospective students. She was great for me coming in, and Chris and everyone else that you'll talk to. The faculty is really what makes CASE as great as it is. And I'm very thankful to be in this profession and in this school and to have the people around that we do. So that's it from me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was thank you both of you. Great overview for prospective students and what to expect. We're moving right along to admissions requirements. I'm going to turn it over to Bobby to give us an overview.
Thanks, Logan. I've been typing away like a maniac, so I appreciate everyone's patience as you ask questions about these slides that are coming up. And I go by Bobby or Roberta, either is cool with me. Anyway, admissions requirements. You'll notice they are on our website. I've sent a few of you the link to our website's admission requirements section, but they're basically very similar to med school requirements. And they include a prerequisite course list, which we're going to get into. They include either the GRE or the MCAT test. It is your choice. We do not weigh one higher than the other. Some applicants even choose to take both and submit both, especially if they did well on both of them. But this is part of that holistic approach that we have started to take more recently within the past couple of years. We wanted to open this up because we used to take only the MCAT. I think the last application cycle was maybe 2019, where that was the only test that we accepted. But we have since taken on the GRE, and it's really been good because it's brought in a lot of different varied applicants. And we also have something called the Casper test, which is that ALTIS suite. There are two parts to that test, and you'll be happy to know that you don't need to study for it or prepare for it, other than basically, make sure that you're comfortable with being on camera, because the snapshot is a very brief sort of 3-question quiz where you answer your questions in the camera, and it's a situational judgment test. It gives us more of an idea of who you are as a person, beyond test scores, beyond transcripts, numbers, GPAs. There are no right or wrong answers. So it's an important part. And again, this is the holistic approach that we're taking, which takes into consideration different backgrounds, different personalities, different individuals, because that's what we're looking for, what kind of individual you are. It could reflect what kind of practitioner you may end up being. And that is, as you know, very, very important. I'm sure many of you have experiences or can talk about experiences. I certainly know in reading personal essays in your applications that a lot of you are drawn to this profession because either you or a loved one had to have surgery, and you remember the AA who was there, and you remember the experience you had with them, whether they, eased your mind, whether they made you laugh, whether they answered your questions and helped you feel better. That's very important. So if we could have the next slide, please. We're going to get into the list of prerequisite courses, which if you can see here, again, basically very similar to med school courses. I think human anatomy and physiology are a little unique to us, but anyway, what's important for you to know about this slide is that anatomy and physiology can be combined, and they are the only courses that can be combined. The others are pretty standard science courses. The English is important because of the writing component and the need to demonstrate proven communication skills to us. The advanced statistics course is, I know, challenging for a lot of people to understand whether or not courses they have taken will qualify for this requirement. It's an important course as well for understanding the nuances of the studies and the analysis of best practices, which ultimately helps you understand the material better and will result in better patient care. So I think I might have typed into the chat, but I will type into the chat our general email, which is msaprogram@case.edu, where you can send some of your questions about some of the prerequisites more specifically, like a class you had taken that you are not sure if it's going to fulfill that requirement. So I see we have a raised hand here. So if Emma has not had a chance to ask a question, I'm not sure if Logan, if she can ask it verbally.
No, so please use the Q&A. Sorry, that feature is turned off, the raise your hand. But if you could chat it in the Q&A, we can answer it.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, we can go to the next slide. Now, this is an important timeline that everybody should kind of either screen cap, because I think it's really cool. We have this information on our website, but being a visual learner, I think this kind of lays it out a bit more clearly. So our application cycle is open. It's been open since March and typically opens every March. And two important deadlines to remember are the early decision deadline of October 1st and the regular decision deadline for February 1st. And we have, virtual interviews through Zoom. We are probably going to try to start those in August just because we've received so many applications. But a lot of people ask and have asked, how soon after submitting my application will I know if I have an interview? It could be a day, 2 days, a week, a month. It depends on how many we're reviewing and what they look like. And the same goes for offers of admission. They could come the day after you've interviewed with us. They could come a month. They could come in February. So that all depends as well, how busy things are and what everything is looking like for us. And it's funny, we get like 2 weeks break because we graduate the class in usually mid-May, and then the new class begins end of May. Someone asked, does it always begin the day after Memorial Day, the Tuesday after? And the answer is yes, it always does. And that's a good thing because it's easy to remember that you come here, you have maybe 3 days of orientation with me and some of my colleagues, you meet the faculty, you meet the directors, and then you jump right into boot camp. It's really amazing. We just get you started and we get you ready. It's a pretty invigorating process. So let's take a look at the next slide, please, Logan. This is also something that was coming into the chat room in the Q&A. These are the numbers you want to shoot for. We don't have requirements anymore, minimum requirements anymore, because we found it just made more sense to look at the numbers in this way. So these are the most recent numbers, and you want to get as close to these numbers as you can. So this will get you in sort of a competitive position with your application, amongst other things. So again, if you want to screen cap this, it's a nice kind of quick shot of what you want to be shooting for. Next slide, please. Okay, this gives you just a general overview of where our students come from. You will note many different backgrounds, degree programs, and it's really important to us because patients need a broad perspective of clinicians. And we feel that these different varied backgrounds help to provide that. So people come to us, I'm a non-traditional student, we love that. Don't worry about that, please. There's no real one definition of an ideal candidate for our program. Basically, you have to be professional. You have to be a great communicator. A lot of people asked about the average size of the cohorts. So these are our most recent numbers. And they generally, across all program locations, we are matriculating 84 students each year. And the average ages, we have anything from 20 to 50, believe it or not. So the average age is right smack in the middle, is like 24. And you also have additional breakdowns. So we can go to the next slide. 'Tis the Q&A. So I'm going to go back to the written Q&A to see if anyone has some lingering questions. And if you don't mind, if I've already answered it, I'm probably just going to delete your question in the Q&A. But anyway, feel free to go ahead and give us additional questions at this time. Thank you, Logan.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. We have a few minutes before 6. Like Roberta said, she answered a ton of questions. So keep them coming. I'll ask a few before we hit the 6 o'clock hour. Then we'll wrap up. So a common question that came in for registration is how to stand out on your application. And I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this over to Pete. Pete, what can you tell prospective students about how to stand out on an application?
Apologies, I had my mic off. No, we really take a very holistic approach to the student. You're going to be competing against a cohort of other people, so whatever you can do to stand out will be helpful. And everything from involvement in volunteer work to extracurricular activities, things that show leadership, that you're involved in that, that you've interacted with society, I guess, is the best way to explain it. Not any one thing is going to get you in, and not any one thing is going to necessarily keep you out, is what I like to say. We've had people with very high grade point averages who did not get in, and we've had people with lower grade point averages do get in. A lot of it depends on the interview process and how just how your overall application looks. That's really important, because you're going to be taking care of people, and we're looking for the best people we can find to help our patients. That's all I have on that.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question. I'm gonna go ahead and give this to Ty. Another question about references. Can you give us some good examples of references who you should choose for the application?
Sure. I think that when you are applying, just as Pete mentioned, your references are similar to the interview and the whole application process. Be yourself, be authentic, be genuine. We get to see a lot of applicants. This is a very sought after profession, and we are very thankful that everyone here this evening is interested in pursuing this. And we really work hard to put together the right teams for the programs, because it's important that we have the right teams in the ORs taking care of patients in the future. So when it comes to references, I don't look so much at the title of your reference. I'm not going to know the individuals that are submitting their reference letter on your behalf. But what I'm going to be looking at when I'm reading that reference letter is authentic, genuine, and in some degrees unique. I want that reference letter to be able to share with me what makes you unique, what makes you stand out to them as your reference, and I want them to share that with me. Same thing, as people say, with the interview process. When we're visiting, I want to know what lights you up. If you are, whether it's travel, whether it's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, what is it about you that sets you apart from your peers? We know what the numbers are. We know that you're going to fit that mold, but you want to stand out from the mold of your peers in those regards. And I think that also is very important with the reference letters. Hopefully that addressed your question.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. So we did hit that 6 o'clock hour, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if we did not get to your question, I'm so sorry, but we'd be so happy to answer. Just email us at msaprogram@case.edu. If you have some lingering questions and just want to check us out, please visit our website. There's a plethora of information on there. And then to stay up to date, you can follow us on our social media platforms. Thank you all so much. Hope to see you at our next event.